Hello, everyone, and welcome to this virtual memorial for Michael Berenzweig, an animal activist and animal rescuer who passed away recently. And we're very honored. My name's Lisa Levinson. I'm run Vegan Spirituality, and myself and Judy Carmen interviewed Michael a few months ago. And so we're very honored to participate in this virtual memorial, which will be led by Nancy Kogel. Hi, Nancy. How are you? I think you'll need to unmute yourself to talk.
Mute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm doing well. Should I begin?
Yes, please do. And I'm so grateful to you for leading this memorial. I know that you have many fond memories of Michael, and so we're really looking forward to hearing about them. And for those people who've joined us, there'll be an opportunity for you to share your memories as well, following the presentation that Nancy has put together. So thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to everybody who's participating in this. Some people could not be here, and we hope to have this somewhere else in the future, so they'll be able to at least hear it and see it. So just a little history of Michael. Michael was born August 5th, 1949, to Abe and Eva Berenzweig. His father had a son by a previous marriage 20 years Michael's elder, so basically Michael was an only child. Michael and Marilyn, his wife, had a daughter, Sarah, who left home and married herself, had children, though neither Sarah nor her children maintained ties. Michael grew up in the projects in an impoverished neighborhood in Brooklyn, where the kids teased him and called him kike and attacked him for being Jewish. When Michael was in his early teens, his parents thought him too rebellious and consented to shock therapy, which resulted in his trachea collapsing. And the doctors proclaimed it a miracle that he actually survived that. Michael attended high school and was very close to, but never graduated. So he's basically self-taught. Just quick adjustment here. And he did indeed read profusely plays, poems, fiction, nonfiction, philosophy, science, and most recently biblical and religious texts. He also gained knowledge. I'm going to shut my window. Sorry. He also gained knowledge from listening to WBAI non-commercial listener-sponsored radio, and he frequently volunteered personing the phone lines. Michael never held a regular job, but did a lot of the heavy lifting in caring for the animals, carrying 100-pound bags of birdseed going into Manhattan from Brooklyn and Queens to commodities and other health stores for organic whole plant groceries. Michael loved music and played the piano and guitar proficiently. He met his wife, Marilyn, when he came to Philadelphia to attend a concert. He lived there with Marilyn for a few years, and it's there that he and Marilyn learned about the health benefits and the science of macrobiotics, which is primarily plant-based. It's also there that their love for creatures grew stronger. Michael included the study of Buddhism, as well as Taoism, Jain, and other religions, and was drawn to philosophies and practices of compassion to all beings. Marilyn and Michael moved to Boerum Hill, Brooklyn, and then to Queens, where they raised their daughter, Sarah, and all the cats and birds and other creatures for whom they cared. To help support their family, Marilyn worked as a freelance artist, creating textile designs on contract till she was hired by a large corporation for a number of years. Not long after their daughter Sarah moved out and married, Michael and Marilyn were threatened with eviction. Could it possibly be due to their feeding water bugs, mice, rats, and other creatures, mimicking the kind of relationship Herman in Isaiah Bashevis Singer's story, the letter writer, had with the mouse, about which he said, for animals, all humans are Nazis, and for animals, it's an eternal Treblinka. Either way, the landlord was, to say the least, not delighted with this human-animal bond. And so in 2010, taking their birds, cats, guinea pigs, etc., they moved to Tent City, where Pastor Stephen Brigham and his son had set up tents in the woods of Lakewood, New Jersey, where they lived for 4 years without running water, electricity, or other often taken for granted amenities. Because of their abilities to heal and care for all their creatures, people in the camp came to see them as camp vets. They also fed wholesome organic plant food to the dozens of chickens that roamed the camp. In 2014, the township of Lakewood forced the closing and demolition of Tent City. And with the help of friends like myself, we found sanctuaries for upwards of 100 birds. And Michael and Marilyn took 30 themselves. In the nick of time, a friend found them a mobile home in Florence, South Carolina, with chicken coops and the luxury of running water and electricity. Here they've lived for the last 6 years, caring for the chickens, other birds, a guinea pig, cats, and even a peacock Michael named Michio. Berenzweig means, I thought it meant bird on a twig, for which Michael cared for many years, but I was corrected. Marilyn said it means berry on a twig, both relevant. So that's a little history of Michael and Marilyn and their history of veganism and the relationship they had with their animal friends. I'm going to give a little summary of what the impact Michael had on me and other people, and his prime directive, which was opening an invitation to others to lead a compassionate life. Anyone who knew Michael would probably agree that his life mission was to convey the message that peace, compassion, and respect for all beings, our sister and brother animals included, is essential for a sane, healthy, and purposeful life, as well as for the survival of the human race. Every fiber of his being resonated with that, and everything he did followed that prime directive and conveyed that message. I met Michael on the phone in 1979 when I called WBAI to give a donation, and he was a volunteer personing the phones. He was nervous, stuttered a little bit, and I said to him, "Why don't you take a deep breath?" And he did. And he got the fact that I was spiritually minded, plant-based, and a compassionate person. And a little conversation ensued. And just till a month ago, 40 years later, we've been communicating by phone mostly ever since. So we had so much in common, but in particular, our respect and compassion to all animals and our vegetarian, vegan lifestyles were primary. I stopped eating meat, what is euphemistically called meat, but which I call dead carcasses, in 1972 when I met a fellow office worker who at San Francisco Newsreel, who came in every day and poured out his thermos for lunch containing rice, beans, grains, greens, and some seafood, seaweed rather, plant food. And he seemed to be one of the healthiest, smartest, most alert, most compassionate people in that office space, making films for Newsreel. And so I thought, and I did ask him, however, why did you go vegan? Why did you stop eating meat? And he said, if the Vietnamese, small peasant nation, could be winning a war against the biggest superpower in the world, most heavily armed, on rice and beans, I don't think that diet could be all so bad for me. And so I followed in his steps and eliminated the consumption of meat, animal carcasses myself. So I came to Michael with that foundation. And then just about when meeting Michael on the phone then in 1979, 40 years ago, my 1.5-year-old son came down with a rash. I think it was from our time at the beach or something. But Michael suggested that I contact the Macrobiotic Society and see what they had to say. And they suggested I eliminate the dairy and eggs from our diet. And I did. And immediately the rash disappeared. And that was pretty convincing, or convincing enough for me. This was also about the time that I read a book called Animals Are My Friends, and I Don't Eat My Friends, by the Ananda Mirta Society. And in the book, I learned the many other reasons why eliminating dead animals and milk and eggs stolen from them was so fundamental. I learned about how the sustainability of our planet depended on it. I learned about the workers who had to work in these industries and kill animals all day. And I learned, or sexually abuse them. I learned about the health benefits. I learned about compassion on a deeper level, ahimsa. I learned about food sustainability globally, and many other things that really just convinced me how central this was to my work as a person who cared. So I'm not much of a phone person, but Michael is. And so we spoke on the phone for hours sometimes once, twice a day, twice a week, and occasionally twice a month if both of us were busy. So besides helping me, being instrumental in myself and my son going vegan, Michael impacted me on in so many other ways. Before meeting Michael in 1979, I'd been for a decade at least involved with a revolutionary group learning theory and practice and helping workers grasp power and fight for their own interests. Our group of phone operators that I started working with then, we needed to wear pants instead of the dress code of the day, which was skirts or dresses. The bags that were housing the cords that were then used had fleas in them, and our legs were getting bitten up. So we fought for the right to wear pants to work. And we won that fight after days of some of us staying out of work and protesting. And because the CWA, the Communication Workers of America, that union, and the Mabel was the largest employer of people in the United States at the time, they changed all their policies to wearing pants, and that totally changed our pants wearing policies from, I think it was around 1970, 71 or so, 1970, 71 onward. So I had been involved with activism and the whole idea of the rights of workers and of poor people and people of color and immigrants and native born people. And so gay, lesbian, LGBTQ people, etc. For a long time before meeting Michael, I came to him with that. And that was my main focus, even though I was learning about the compassion aspect. It was really started out for me as health concerns for myself and my son. And so Michael and I struggled for many years until eventually I actually did concede the centrality of the human relationship to animals and how fundamental that was to the well-being of humans, what Michael called humanimal rights. And so he helped me understand that veganism is not just a way of eating and clothing oneself, but also a whole lifestyle, a whole way of seeing the world, a whole philosophy of nonviolence, basically. So we debated nonviolence versus revolutionary struggle and movements, and the necessity of the workers' movement to defend themselves when they gained power, and things like that. And I think, yep. And the fact that workers had nothing to lose but their chains. Michael would say, I think I'm missing a page. Let's see. Okay, sorry. One. Okay. Well, so in the end, I did see how essential that was for the survival of the human race in terms of pandemics and the catastrophic climate crisis we're in now. To the end of ever increasing Michael's knowledge and to spread the vision of compassion, Michael was not afraid to engage with scholars, journalists, authors, scientists, doctors, rabbis, priests, imams, anyone who is open to dialogue. For example, he developed a very long-term relationship with Rin Berry, who wrote Food for the Gods and Hitler, neither vegetarian nor animal lover, among other books. And With his knowledge of Greek, Aramaic, and Hebrew, Rinberry understood the common incorrect translation of, for example, fishes in the story of the loaves and fishes, to correctly be loaves and hummus, a common meal of the area and the time. Fishes, he argued, would be impractical and inconsistent with Jesus's teachings and the practices of the day. Michael also established a long-term relationship with Ralph Schoenman, an American left-wing activist who was personal secretary to Bertrand Russell and sat on the Vietnam War Crimes Tribunal, met with world leaders like Patrice Lumumba and Fidel Castro, and hosted for many years the WBAI radio show called Taking Aim, which was the most hard-hitting and popular show on air. Through persistence and intelligent arguments, Michael convinced Ralph and Maya Schoenman and Maya Schoen to produce a show about speciesism, the horrors of animal agriculture, and the need to work towards animal liberation. It was one of the most popular of their very popular shows. Ralph and Maya dedicated the show to Michael and called him the Jiminy Cricket of the movement. From this success, Michael suggested that we produce our own shows on WBAI. And with the same persistence and rational arguments, Michael convinced the program director of the time, Bernard White, to give us a chance, and we grabbed it. We interviewed Rinberry, Charles Patterson, author of Eternal Treblinka, Our Treatment of Animals in the Holocaust, and Carol J. Adams, author of The Sexual Politics of Meat, The Pornography of Meat, Help, My Kids Stop Eating Meat, and It's Never Too Late to Go Vegan, amongst other books. And we got those on the air. And in addition to those, we interviewed Amy Breeze Harper, who wrote Sister Vegan, an African-American scholar from Harvard. And we interviewed Diane Beer, who wrote for the prevention of cruelty to animals, about the Humane Society and its historic roots. And we also interviewed Ralph Schoenman. And sadly, these interviews never got on air because I became interested in producing my television show, which still airs, that was in 2007, airs weekly, and which I put on YouTube on our Roar Reaching Out for Animal Rights YouTube channel. So Michael and I also collaborated, along with the late, great Mary Max, to convince Art Bell of the widely listened to radio show called Coast to Coast AM Radio. And I am losing my place. So let's see. Sorry. Well, basically, Mary Max and I shared an email list, and I added to her email list. And so we convinced Art Bell that there were enough people wanting to hear a show about with No More, who's a Yale physicist who of EarthSave International, who was convinced that only, or most importantly, a plant-based vegan diet and lifestyle was the fastest, easiest, quickest, and most efficient way to actually stop and reverse the catastrophic climate crisis. And so he did air, and it was semi-successful, and reached a huge audience. And then Michael also, we both tuned into a show by that Robert Kennedy Jr. was on, and Michael got to dialogue and debate with him about climate change and the climate crisis, and was very effective. The other thing that Michael accomplished was, with his relationship with Ralph Schoenman and his and Maya Schoen's show, Taking Aim, Michael, through persistence and perseverance and intelligent argument, convinced Ralph and Maya of the importance of having a show, hosting a show about the centrality of the human relationship to our non-human fellow earthlings. And finally, they did. And they called the show Visions of Hell, our relationship with other species. And it was incredibly well-researched and very, very impactful, and was said to be the most listened to and the most positively responded to show ever on BAI, and raised the most funds during a fundraiser. So that was very, very a big impact, I think, that Michael had on the progressive radio show and the people who listen. Then when Michael went to live in Tent City, he was surrounded with by Christian values, and there were Christian teaching classes, lessons, Bible lessons, and services, sermons by Reverend Stephen Brigham and his son. And Michael attended those. And he would say to me, Nancy, can you just imagine if 2.4 billion Christians around the world knew that Jesus was vegan and that the Prince of Peace would never consume a dead animal or the result of the violence that's caused by our humans consuming meat and milk and eggs stolen from cows and chickens? Can you just imagine what impact that would have on all the other religions and all the other people in the world? And so he began his work studying the texts and the Bible and all the religious teachings of all the religions, basically, but primarily the Christian religion. He reread parts of Food for the Gods, Vegetarianism and the World's Religions by Rinberry, and he read the Bible Old and New Testament. He made the links between the Old and the New. And he became very proficient. He also really thought these things through. He said, if this is true in this place in the Bible, how could that be true in this other place in the Bible? And he worked these things through completely. And he came up with all these theories and quotes. Primarily, both of us, we always relied on Genesis 1:29, the first commandment God ever gave humans. I've given you every seed-bearing fruit, every fruit-bearing tree, and every herb that grows on the face of this earth, and that will be as meat for you. Michael explaining that meat meant any solid food that wasn't liquid. So that will be as food for you. God had said, listen, this is what's natural for your body. This is what's good for you. This is what I've provided. Essen, eat. And so we both relied on that, but Michael went just further and further, and he would share with me all the different myths and the reasons that people got it wrong in terms of Jesus. He read all the books, the vegetarianism of Jesus, the forgotten beginnings of creation and Christianity. I can include a whole list somewhere. He read prolifically all the authors who proclaimed the same thing, that Jesus was vegan, and urged his followers to do the same. And so for example, he would point out Paul's kind of neurotic, inconsistent ways of speaking. And a lot of meat eaters point to Paul saying plant eaters are weak in the faith, to showing that by the end of those paragraphs, he was saying, and it is right and just and good in the eyes of the Lord not to consume meat or wine. And the loaves and the fishes, he went on Rinberry's premise that it meant hummus. And there's a lot of people would say, but animals don't have souls, so why should we care about them? And Michael would looked up the words that referred to that in Hebrew, which was nefesh chaim. And he went to the town of Lakewood, to the Jewish community there, the very religious Orthodox Jewish community there, and asked one rabbi after another, one learned person after another, and they all said it means living soul, nefesh chaim. And so Michael had another comeback. So Michael became, there were many, many, many ways in which he refuted the common myths. He also believed and realized that the Bible was not set in stone, that it was basically an argument of the two sides of the basic fundamental question of all time, which is compassion or violence is okay. In other words, between those who promoted compassion to all beings, like Jesus, and those who promoted it's okay to sacrifice, to commit violence against other beings, as long as they're other species, other races, other genders, other whatever. It's a whole philosophical way of seeing the world, and it revolved around sacrifice, the sacrifice of animals. And there was a whole anti-sacrificial movement afoot that Jesus followed. The Essenes, the Nazoreans, the Theosophians. There were a whole different bunch of sects. And he said the Bible was the argument back and forth of those sects. And it was the argument between the meat eaters, the scribes, the Pharisees, the kings, the high priests, and those who were non-meat eaters, those who relied on plants for nourishment, the masses of people, poor, impoverished people, the prophets, and to whom Jesus often referred. And so through that deduction of his just very thorough and deep piercing of all this information, the texts and what people said, he really became an advocate for the vegan Jesus, for the 2.4 billion people, Christians, becoming vegan. And he was successful in convincing a number of people on Facebook to embrace the vegan Jesus. And that would include Father Donatello Iocco and Reverend Carol Saunders and many others. He also attended the Seventh-day Adventist Church and convinced 2 out of the 58 parishioners there to become, 4 out of the 58, 2 of whom of the 58 were already vegan, but he convinced another 4 to become vegan. And so Michael and I would dialogue about all this over the years. I'd like to say a few words about his relationship to our sister and brother fur-finned and feathered friends. Some can become very hard-hearted after having the experiences that Michael had, being teased in his youth, not being able to finish high school, having shock therapy, and having a collapsed trachea and almost dying. He didn't become hard-hearted. He became the opposite. He became very compassionate to all beings. And he saw animals as precious and to be respected and honored, and he did. When he and Marilyn lived in Brooklyn and Queens, kids in the neighborhood recognized both of them as very caring beings, and they started bringing rescued cats, abandoned kittens to them, and they took them in. And from there, he related many stories of these kinds of rescues, but one of them sticks out in my mind, and that's him walking down the street. And usually when people walk up to birds, pigeons, whomever, they fly away immediately, or they change positions and flutter away at a distance. But Michael came across one who didn't flutter away or fly away and stayed there. And Michael thought, well, maybe something's wrong. And as was his usual way, he spoke to the bird and said, "What seems to be the problem? What's going on? Are you okay?" And the bird took her feather and spread it and pointed to this space underneath the nearby garbage cans. And there Michael peeked underneath and saw a little chick, her chick that had obviously fallen out of the tree and wasn't able to fly away. And Michael thanked her, took the little chick, and brought the chick into their apartment and nursed the chick to health. And the mother would check in every little while. They lived on the first floor, and the mother would like kind of look into the window and see that her little baby was being well taken care of. And when she was convinced enough that Michael and Marilyn were to be trusted with her dear baby, she sort of gave a little nod and flew away and was never seen again. And Michael and Marilyn had a way of taking care, feeding, healing these rescued birds, that they lived, instead of 2, 3, 4 years, their natural lifespan, to 10, 11, 12 years. And quite a number of other birds came to live with Michael and Marilyn after that first one. Michael was really able to express his feelings about these birds. And, I would just hear his love for them and how he worshiped them like they were God. He called Murdy or Aria, my God, the goddess. But when one of them died, he was just grief-stricken. And he would just sob and sob about losing them, and just how hard it was and how much he loved them. It was heartwarming to see and know that someone cared so much. It was like this was family, as people say. The landlord, of course, was, as I said before, was not so happy about their very anti-speciesist. They didn't distinguish between the birds that they took care of, or the kittens and cats and guinea pig and other animals that they cared for. They didn't distinguish between those and the farm animals that they didn't eat or steal milk or eggs from, and the little creatures that came to live in their home, the mice and the rats and the water bugs, etc. So that's when the landlord got wind, and they were evicted and had to live in Tent City. So basically, Michael's main thing, his main primary motivation in life was to end. He couldn't bear to see the suffering of anyone, especially innocent animals who really had no voice in our social systems, in our political, economic systems, and were so vulnerable to human confinement, exploitation, commodification, abuse, terror, torture, and killing. So Michael, like myself and most vegans, suffered from dystopia. And this is similar. This is similar to dystopia, an imagined state or society in which there is great suffering or injustice. The vegan psychologist Claire Mann coined this word to describe the anguish a vegan feels living in a non-vegan world. I would include not only anguish, fear, but also pain, grief, anger, all the feelings that a vegan feels about living in a non-vegan world. And this involves the original awakening to see and experience and understand the full extent of the cruelty and horrors and the violence inflicted on our animal friends. 2, discovering the enormity of that violence, how how we kill, the human race kills over 80 billion animals a year, millions by the hour. I think it's 60 million an hour, and hundreds of thousands by the second. That it goes on undetected by the vast majority of humans. It's completely invisible. Unlike racism and sexism and disrespect for LGBTQ community and immigrants, etc., this is the one ism, speciesism, that is almost completely invisible to, I'd say, a vast majority of people in the world. And this whole awakening of a whole system whereby friends, neighbors, people we talk to continue to collude with the system of invisible and hidden violence. And vegans who are not alert to other forms of struggle and injustice wonder, like, if this is hidden from me, if this is the amount of violence in the world, what else is my government, institutions, hospitals, medical establishment, science, etc., hiding from me? And why are perfectly sane, intelligent, rational, and seemingly kind family and friends continuing in these horrific practices, or these practices that are the result of horrific practices? So all vegans, especially those fighting for humanimal or animal liberation, go through this. And many eventually learn the value of self-care, getting enough sleep, health, taking care of our health, eating whole, organic, plant-based meals, exercise, fresh air, etc. And ways of thinking and spiritual practices, meditation, yoga, ways to calm ourselves that are helpful. And Michael would say, if a dumb high school graduate like myself could comprehend this and change my ways, anyone should be able to do it. And so I would just remind him that a lot of people, aren't as attuned to animals, really are indoctrinated, just like we were, but are want to conform to what's around them. And it's just, we've got to keep on educating and sharing this way of living in the world. I just want to insert here that Michael taught me so much more. With a dictionary always by his side, he taught me about words and language and pejoration and amelioration of language, distorting words like pig, the names people are called, names of animals that make the name of an animal be like this terrible thing. Some words used to clarify, but many used to distort. And he would point out the speciesist language of, for example, pig, bitch, coward, bully, sheeple, you rat, chicken, and many others. He taught me about this ingenious system that he devised, combining astrology, numerology, natural healing, spirituality, Buddhism, and a combination of East and West philosophies. He taught me about Buddhism, Taoism, Jain, the religions of nonviolence. He taught me about Leo Tolstoy and how he went to debate vegans in North America from Russia, and he lost the debate and was convinced that nonviolence was the way, and he became vegan, and he renounced his writings, War and Peace, and he was the one who Gandhi visited and was in turn convinced to live a nonviolent, peaceful way of living. And what happened was with these Michael suffering from dystopia. Michael also, one of his imperfections was his perfectionism. And he just would not he just could not accept that anyone could be anything less than plant-based, vegan, compassionate towards all beings. And so he kind of held a microscope on people. And so people, and he also had all this political awareness from listening to WBAI and, you know, the 9/11 inside story, the myth of 9/11, 9/11 Truth, from Ralph Schoenman's show, Taking Aim, and the Palestinians and Native Americans, and he knew about all these struggles. So to vegans who were unaware of these other, you know, the horrors of capitalism in general towards humans, he would preach to them about, you know, no, you've got to be aware and alert to this other aspect of capitalism, or the measure of wealth by the head, the cap of animals. You know, you have to be aware of all the ramifications of what that means. And so he would argue to the vegans about that, and to the people who were politically astute and aware, he would argue about the importance of an anti-speciesist, how anti-racist and anti-sexist that an anti-speciesist stand was. So, and then to people who were already politically aware and politically active for years, for their whole life, like Ralph Schoenman, he would argue with him about Marx and Trotsky being a hunter, and the same with other political. And he would argue with people like Carol J. Adams, how could you support Bernie Sanders, who supports the dairy industry and is totally unaware and doesn't say anything about that, and who supports hunters and gun rights in that respect. And, you know, he was really a perfectionist, and, you know, in a way, that perfect imperfection of his, you know, was sort of a way that caused him great grief and caused many people to just be fed up with him. I mean, he, at a certain point, he was using all capital letters on Facebook, like it's called screaming at people, and that turned a lot of people off. And so before he slowly, gradually changed his ways and really became much more finely attuned to working with people and where they were at, he really lost a lot of possible allies and some friends. I stuck with him through and through because I was really on the same page in a lot of ways, but just a little bit more subtle approach to people. And I had the support of sisters and my brother and friends who were also struggling with their friends who were struggling with their dystopia and how to deal with family members and friends who had not yet been enlightened. So with that, I will just conclude that Michael did impact a lot of people, and he certainly impacted me. And I really grew up with his friendship and his camaraderie and collaborating with him. He was a great co-worker, and I'll never be the same. I do see Michael in heaven now, you know, just with his fin, fur, and feathered friends, just rejoicing in their amazing creation, their amazingness, all their intelligence and wisdom and beauty and lovingness. And I see him really in a good place, you know, with Michio, the peacock that he loved and that sadly died several months before, many months before. And I see him also with all the philosophers and the authors and the scientists and the playwrights and all the people he studied and the wise people of the world, the feminists, everybody who changed life. And yeah, maybe arguing with them a little bit, but also kind of looking down and saying, okay, we're on the right track. And I really hold him so dearly in my heart now and will forever. Hard to really, you know, comprehend that I can't just pick up the phone and say, Michael, what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And look what I'm doing. And how do you think? And can you join me with this? It's, you know, very hard to really grok that, to know that. But I will continue to honor him and his mission. Thank you so much for listening. I know this was a little long, and I do invite you to, I have two to read, short little words from people who knew him. One would be Father Donatello Iotto, who said, I am not able to attend via Facebook or Zoom, so would you kindly read these, my fond memories of Michael? I met Michael through Facebook. We talked many times on the phone. Michael was a real inspiration and a very intelligent man. We were both on the mission to reveal to the world that Jesus and his early followers were vegan. He referred to me two of the books that really helped me look into early Christianity. They were The Forgotten Beginnings of Creation and Christianity by Carl Anders Screever, and The Vegetarianism of Jesus Christ by Charles P. Veslavic. I am thankful to God that I will be able to meet and talk to Michael, the vegan deacon, that I was able to meet and talk to Michael, the vegan deacon, who blessed and encouraged me to further my studies concerning Jesus and his early followers. Michael also spoke about his love for all of God's creation, his brothers and sisters. I enjoyed listening to the mystical experiences he had with his family of animals, with whom he and his wife, Marilyn, lived. They were unforgettable experiences. I will truly miss speaking to Michael and seeing his posts about the crucial importance of living a vegan Christian lifestyle. May Michael continue to inspire those who want to live the way God intended. May he also continue to pray for us so all may see the truth of how we are to love all creatures with kindness, gentleness, and mercy. Thank you, Michael. You will be dearly missed. Father Donatello Iocco. And Dr. Richard Schwartz, president of the Jewish Vegetarian Society of North America, a Scottish poet wrote, "To live in hearts left behind is not to die." In that sense, Michael will live in my heart, that of his beloved wife and companion Marilyn, and the many others whom Michael befriended and inspired. What I remember most about Michael was his dedication, his commitment to working for a better world. Michael would often call me with an idea for working to advance vegetarianism, animal rights, environmental sustainability, or another progressive cause. His approach was always thoughtful and thought-provoking. He was always appreciative of my efforts, but urging me to do more. I counted him as one who inspired me to always try harder. May his memory be a blessing, inspiring us to keep working for a more just, peaceful, humane, and environmentally sustainable world. May Marilyn and all who loved Michael be comforted with many fond memories. Thank you, Dr. Richard Schwartz, and thank you, Father Donatello Iocco. And thank you all for listening and being here. And thank you, Lisa, for opening the phones, opening the Zoom meeting to anyone who would like.
Yes, well, thank you, Nancy, for sharing your fond memories and the life history of Michael, so all of us can get to know the parts of him even better that we didn't know before. So I certainly learned some things about Michael from hearing what you had to say. It was very moving. And I'm wondering if anyone would like to share a thought. I know that we were a memory. We did have, I think Tom was interested in possibly doing that before. So in this webinar, what you can do is there's a raise hands button, or you can let us know in the chat box that you would like to talk, and then I will go ahead and the process is to make you a panelist if you'd like to share your webcam. So you'd share your video with us if you'd like, or you can just share with your voice. That's fine too. So it looks like we have a few people with their hands up. So I'm going to go ahead and call on, I think first, let's see if Tom wanted to mention anything. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Hi there. Did you want to share, and would you like to share your webcam?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to a panelist, and that way you'll be able to do that, and you'll see a little invitation to show your, it's called ask to start your video. So that way you'll get a little notification to do that.
All right. Very
Great.
So I think it was well done. You know, I think Nancy had a lot of nuances really well, nicely there. Some of the things I remember, he was an awful good sports person. He could throw a ball, baseball, like a real pro. We'd be walking, pick up a rock. We'd be walking through a park, and he would just pick it up and throw it, and it would take off like a full-fledged, amazing how strong, how capable he was. It wasn't muscle, it was skill. And musically, he was great. He really was rock music. He didn't get into classics until way later, but in terms of rock, he had listened to it all, and he understood origins. So when he would listen to a song, he would know where that came from, where the person, the influences. And it was, which is what one of the reasons he really jumped into the AI at the time, because they had a whole wealth of different music. But he was exceptional in music. I mean, it was like way beyond other people. He would confront people at the station, the AI, about that, and they could kind of really acknowledge that. And then back, I think the important is to remember, at least I remember, he was really a macrobiotic for a long time first. And part of that was the philosophy of yin yang and the balancing, and how he made it work, in his relationship and his attitude and disposition. And it was a big thing. Like in the winter, you would find him just eating grains, heavy grains, and ignoring fruit, for instance. And then as the seasons change, he would change. And so I know the philosophy and the diet were, I think, for a long time, the real focus on how he became. And so you might put it the way he really was living his belief and Marilyn together. It was their beautiful little, world that was there. And I think it was later on that he opened it up more to the intensity of veganism. But, so, and it was pointed out how he could be difficult sometimes, and he had some hurdles to deal with, in terms of like his daughter sometimes, but so does all fathers, and so those were high points. And he was, very empathetic. I mean, people had a wealth of different people that he knew. Back in the macro days, he grew to know all the people in the movement. There was a big group in New Jersey, I think, were influencing the business side of macrobiotics, and he was right in on it. Not to be business-like, but to just propagate the philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's about it.
Well, thank you, Tom, for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate it. And we're going to move on to the next person who wanted to share their thoughts. And I have their name here as owner, I think. So I'll just invite you to talk. Hello. Hi there. Can you share your name with us?
Yeah, it's Gail Cobray, and I don't know why owner is there.
Okay, sorry about that. Would you like to share your webcam? It's up to you. If you'd like to, I'll promote you to a panelist.
No, thank you. I
Okay.
didn't know Michael, but I found this very interesting. So I just wanted to thank Nancy and thank you.
Well, thank you for joining. And it is really important to honor other activists' lives. So I'm glad that you joined in.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think I'll invite Thomas to talk.
Thomas Jackson.
Yes.
I'll be Thomas Wade Jackson.
Hi, Thomas.
Hey.
Hi, would you like to share your video?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to a panelist. That'll take a little moment, and you'll see the invitation to share your video. Perfect. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, oops, I got a little light on my head. Hey, Nancy, thank you so much for sharing. That was beautiful. It was such a blessing to learn more about Michael. I met Michael last year by the phone. We had some messages. He reached out to me. He had heard of the film, and he reached out to me because he knew Jesus was vegan, and he really wanted the world to know that. And unfortunately, when he reached out to me, it was right when we were releasing the film. Like, I was just so busy. I really only had time for a couple conversations in the last year. because like Nancy was saying, I would get on the phone with him and we would talk for 3-4 hours easy. And I would be like, just enjoying it so much because he had such a passion and he knew so much and I learned so much and he could answer so many questions. And I want to say, I really feel like he's been visiting me since Friday. And today, my computer, during this whole webinar, my computer's been doing this strange thing where it'll go lighter and it'll go all the way dark and go all the way light. I'm like, what, Michael, are you messing with my computer? Like, it was just so odd. Like, it wouldn't even show up on my monitor. You know, when you hit your button, you see the light changing, but it wouldn't show up. It would just change. And I would go to hit it and it would already be all the way at the top. I'm like, how did that happen? But so we had lots of great conversations. And you know, when I started making a prayer for compassion, everybody I interviewed, I asked them about whether or not they thought Jesus was vegan. Because when I first started it, I thought it was important for me to prove Jesus was vegan. It was a very important thing. So by the time Michael had contacted me, it was like 3.5 years after starting it. And early on, like Frank Hoffman was one of the early interviews. And when, you know, and he believes Jesus was vegan, but when I asked him, he said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, like what matters is if Jesus was here right now and you took him to a slaughterhouse or you took him to, you showed him what was going on with the planet and all this, like there's no way. So I quit trying to fight that. So I would get in these discussions with Michael and I would say, well, right now I feel like my purpose is really to bring people to their heart. Because if you start talking about Jesus being vegan and you start quoting verses, you're going to get them in their head and they're going to argue and they're going to be in this defensive mode and they're not going to hear what you're saying. I said, I really want to make that movie, Michael, but you got to let me get through these other ones first, because I think these movies will make people ready to hear the message and ready to understand it. And also in the very end, I still think in the end, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. But Michael came like Friday on a vengeance, and I know he's not giving up. He's persistent. That's, I believe you said, Nancy. He's letting me know that, you know, because one of the last conversations I had with him, I said, Michael, I said, you know, it's going to be a little bit before I can get to you, but right now I feel your passion. I feel your purpose. I want you to get a camera, your phone, something. Just start recording stuff. Please record stuff for me so we'll have it when it's time to work. Like right now, while you're feeling the passion, get it out. So I don't know if he did that, but I heard in the interview, like Nancy, I know you've done some interviews with him. I've rewatched the interview with Vegan Spirituality. I feel like we can pull stuff from his interviews, do some other interviews of people who knew him, and we can make a film about Jesus being vegan. Not only that, he brought a new song. He brought a song. I wrote it. Well, I think we co-wrote a song called Jesus Was a Vegan. My friend Michael told me so. And so I'm hoping to get some footage of him and some video of him talking, and then into the song with some pictures and stuff of him, and honor him in that way as well. He had a major purpose, and, you know, I only knew him a small time, but I could not get in the conversation with him without feeling his love and passion and his purpose. And I knew I was connected to it in some way. And I just was so to be close to him. When I heard he passed, man, my heart sank so deeply, because I knew, like, I felt like last year I could have found a way somehow to gotten up there. And I don't have that chance, but I know he's still with us. I know he's been with me this weekend. Several times he's visited, and definitely, and I've gotten so much synchronicity that as soon as I was thinking about the idea of like, oh yeah, you know, I can still explore that Michael's film with Michael, with what I have with Michael, because he did talk and he did reach out. And I went on a bike ride, and a friend emailed me about an idea. She just had a dream. And so I called her back and I told her what I just said. She said, oh my God, I believe that so deeply, that Jesus is vegan. And you know what I mean? It was just like another sign, like ding, 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 everywhere I was looking. And today when my monitor, which has never gone up and down like that, like, come on, man. So I like to think Michael's with us, and I'm going to honor Michael as much as I can. And I thank you, Nancy, for really carrying the torch. I learned so much today. You know, and I really, you know, we definitely need to be in communication once we can see each other again, I'd love to kind of find a way to get together and do a little interview and find a way to put something together for Michael. It may not be like a 2-hour thing. I was thinking, 30, 45-minute piece could cover it and really hit it and bring it home. So
Sounds great.
I'm just saying, yes, Michael, you got me. You won. I say yes. And I appreciate you, Michael. And I appreciate you all for being here to honor Michael. And thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. I just want to give a little introduction to you, which you gave hints about. But Thomas Wade Jackson made this amazing film called A Prayer for Compassion, in which he, and sometimes his amazing, adorable daughter, went around the world and to all these various religious leaders and people in many different faiths and interviewed them. And it's sweet, adorable, heartwarming, very educational. It's a beautiful film. So, and I did reach out to, I thought, wow, it'd be great if Thomas could make a little film about Jesus being vegan and Michael, go and interview Michael. And it happened, I'm sure, Thomas, that you were promoting your film, which had just really come out at about that time, and it needed, like a baby needs the parent, it needed to be supported and taken through to the next stage. And I tried to explain that's probably why Thomas hasn't, followed through yet. That doesn't mean he won't. And so I'm really honored that you came and visited us here and shared that. Yeah, it's a beautiful film. I recommend it to everyone, and it's an honor to have you here. So thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you for your words of wisdom and also your inspiration. It sounds like you're going to continue some of Michael's passions. Great. So now we have Paula who's interested in talking. I'm going to unmute your mic. Hi, Paula. Paula, are you there?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Paula. Would you like to show your webcam? It's up to you if you'd like to. Or
Just tell me where it is.
Okay, if you'd like to, I will promote you to a panelist so you can do that. So you'll get a little invitation to show your webcam.
Okay.
Great.
Am I there?
Yes, I believe so. Let me double check and make sure.
Do I have to click on something?
You do.
Oh, start video. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. Perfect. Thank you, Paula.
Good. All right. So, hello. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Paul. Hi, sweetie.
Hi, love.
Thank you, Thomas. Nancy, that was just so eloquent. And I have to say, first of all, speaking of strange things, Nancy, you might be interested to know this, but while you were talking, there was so many flickers of light around you, like little specks of white. And I don't know if it was the dust in your apartment catching light, or, what they say about spirits. And if it was him, I mean, I think he was listening very keenly to you with a lot of approbation, a lot of approval of how thoroughly and lovingly you spoke of him. And I never, unfortunately, I feel regret that I never got to know Michael. I knew him indirectly, briefly, like for a brief period of time. I crossed paths with him on Facebook, and we had had some interchanges. And I said, we have a common dear friend in common, Nancy, and I was very honored when he told Nancy that he liked something I said. And unfortunately, yes, there was a misunderstanding. He got a little do with something I said, and started in with capital letters, and it hurt my feelings. So, but then, interestingly, I befriended the Seckmans, Joseph and Jessica Seckman, from the Universal and Apostolic Church on Facebook, and I had read Food for the Gods years before, and I was just raving. That book just blew my mind, and I even have Rinberry's signature in it. I met Rinberry at some vegan event in Manhattan, I don't know, in the mid-2000s, and Rin signed it for me. But anyway, I was just talking to anybody and everybody about that book, and what blew my mind was that Rin said that Jesus was essentially crucified for his stance on animal slaughter. And I was thinking, my goodness, if, like you say, millions of Christians who are just absolutely lost and buying into the corruptions of the original scriptures. It's just such a travesty. I mean, travesty isn't even the word. I mean, Jesus is besides himself. The divine is besides him or herself. But anyway, getting back to the Seckmans. So I had sent the Seckmans a copy of Food for the Gods, and they had aired it. They had done a little thank you into video on Facebook, and I guess Michael had seen it, and so Michael and I started talking again on the Seckman's website, Universal and Apostolic Church, and he had asked me, why is it that you chose this book in particular, and this, that, and the other thing. We talked a little, and I was amenable to an olive branch, extending an olive branch and saying, let's just forget what happened in the past. And I don't know, maybe he got distracted, and it never really went anywhere. But after that, like, we would cross paths here and there again on Facebook, and have a congenial this or that, you know. And, you know, I listened to the vegan spirituality interview with him again just a couple of days ago. And what I was struck by was just the most important thing in the world, which is his kindness. You could just see his kindness. That was the main thing. You know, there's nothing higher that you can say about a person in this world. They were kind. And he's free. He's free from whatever his body was, you know, our bodies betray us as we get older. Free and doesn't have to live. Probably hurt him very much what's going on with the pandemic. But I think that they gave him his angel wings right away. And that he's still working. He's still working to make it better wherever he is. But the flickers of white on the screen just blew my mind. I mean, I didn't see it on the other two, Thomas and the other Tom. When you spoke a couple of minutes ago, Nancy, I didn't see it, but throughout your whole eulogy, it was like all over the place, and I'm not the only one who noticed it.
Yeah.
I'm having a lapse of your name, Lisa. Lisa noticed it too. Did anybody else notice it? Oh, that's all I have to say. Yeah.
Oh,
I regret not having gotten to know him better.
well, thank you, Paula, for sharing from your heart and for your forgiveness too, because it sounds like you were able to come to a place of forgiveness with your relationship with Michael. So thank you.
Oh yeah, you know, I'm sure he was very self-reflective and you know, like Nancy said, perfect imperfectness, perfect imperfectness.
Yes.
We all have that, you know.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Well, thank you. And I think Margaret wanted to talk, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic. Margaret, are you there?
I am here, and
Wonderful.
I would be willing to share my
Your
visual as
visual.
well.
Great. Okay, I will do that, and you'll get a little note. You'll be able to unmute your video.
Oh, okay, okay. Where do I find that? Where do I
So
find that?
that, let's see, I can send you a
Hold on. Wait.
I'll go ahead and send a little, you'll get a little notification.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're going to see my messy place. I just now got in. I was listening to this magnificent memorial while I was out and about feeding my pigeon flocks.
Oh.
Nancy, I just have to start by saying how truly, truly wonderful that was. I just was so moved by everything that you shared. And though I was not privileged to know Michael, I did feel like such a kindred connection with him, such a very strong connection. It so happened, and Thomas, I'd like to say before I forget that I just loved your movie, your film, A Prayer for Compassion. I was fortunate to be able to go to the world premiere of that this past year with other vegans, and what that was just so wonderful. And I've told so many people about it, and it influenced me in quite a lot of ways. I mean, one was it emboldened me in my church, my former church, I should say. I was a member of an Episcopal church here in Manhattan, and I left that church because I was given a list of 12 vegan related words that I was not to say on church grounds, or I would be escorted off the church premises. And I had been a member there for close to 40 years. So this was, quite a big thing. And it wasn't even that I was saying anything, all that heavy-handed, really. I would just say things like, well, why is it really necessary for the church to have dairy products at the receptions that we have? I mean, really, and I would tell a bit about what goes on in the dairy industry and things like that. It was enough to tell people, to prompt them to say, you're not allowed to say, vegan related words in this church anymore. And so I left that church, and I went to another church where my reception with my vegan hats and everything is more warmly received, but nevertheless, quite rejected. I'm terribly disappointed in the Christian church, and really just hanging on by a thread with them. So Michael, I feel like I would have had quite a lot to share with Michael. And as Nancy was speaking about his life, I just said, yes, I love this man. I love this man. I love this man. And I'm sorry I did not get to know him, but I feel very blessed just hearing about him through Nancy and all of you. And thank you so much, Nancy, for inviting me to join you today and be with all of you. And I did see the flickers of light all around you, Nancy.
Hey.
Very, very, very much so. There's no doubt that Michael was in on this. For sure. So so very wonderful.
Unbelievable.
Well, thank you, Margaret, for
Thank you.
sharing your thoughts. And just so you know, if you're interested in getting any resources to approach your place of worship about veganism, one of the things that our Interfaith Vegan Coalition does is put together resources so it's a lot easier. We have tools and things. And Thomas, his film is one of those tools. So you can definitely reach out to either myself or Thomas for any help.
I recently, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I do want to get all of those links. Maybe Nancy will give them to me. But I just recently got myself into a little bit of hot water with a fellow Christian at my new church, and I said, in speaking about the dairy at the social hours and stuff like this, I said, well, Jesus was vegan. Jesus was vegan. and that of course raised a lot of eyebrows. And I said, well, you really ought to see this movie, A Prayer for Compassion, and you really ought to read this book, Why Every Christian Should Be a Vegan and Every Vegan Should Be a Christian, by I think Hicks was his name. And yes, there are just so many great resources out there. But thank you. I'm definitely going to look into all that you offer, because unlike Michael, I don't have. I'm getting better, I think, at being a good vegan voice, but I know that I have maybe alienated some folks for sure. I'm sure I have with it. But on the other hand, there have been people who have said, you were right. I thank you. I've brought some into the fold, but it's a journey, finding your voice. But everything that you said, Nancy, speaking about Michael, I just really touched me so much. And thank you. I mean, it was extraordinary. What an extraordinary person. And though I did not know Michael, I do feel it's very important to honor our fellow vegans and our fellow vegan activists. And it was important to me to be here, even though there was another event happening at the very same time. It was veganism in Hinduism.
Yes.
I was very interested, but how it is. Two things always come up at the same time, even though here we are all in COVID-19 isolation with all these hours available to us, right? But still,
Yes.
these two great things happening at once. But I chose Michael. I felt it was very important to be present for Nancy's memorial to him, and I thank you all very much.
Well, thank you for making that choice and helping us create this sacred space for Michael. And if you are interested in getting the replay, you can reach out to Victoria Moran, who
she
posted
told
that.
me that she is going to make it available.
Yes.
After. Yeah.
Good. So I think I just want to offer, if anyone else who's joined us would like to make a comment, you can, I think there's a raise hands button, or you can comment in the chat box if you're interested.
I would like to share, like a slideshow, just very quickly, like 30 seconds of the photos that I have.
Okay, sure. Why don't you do that?
But I'm having a little difficulty knowing how, as my screen became really small, and I don't seem to see any buttons.
If you bring your cursor down to the lower part of the screen, you'll see one button says Share Screen, and you can click on that one.
Okay, yeah, I was, of course, looking for that, but all of my things are very small. There are no buttons on the bottom. I only have stop video, mute my audio.
Okay, let me just see, because you are a panelist, so I think you would be able to do that. Let me just double check. Let me go ahead. I'm going to switch your role to a co-host and see if that helps. So let me know if, when you bring your cursor down to the bottom of the screen, like where you see whomever is talking at the bottom of the screen that shows their face, then there will be some icons down there, and one of them will say Share Screen.
Yeah, I don't know how I got out of the big screen. There
Mm.
we go. Okay,
Okay.
I see you now. Okay, share screen. Very good. I don't know what I did, but let's see if I can. So is it,
wow.
is it shared now?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And so I need to go to, well, I can just do it. So that's Michael's ID. This is Michael and Marilyn at Tent City. And Michael, let's see if I can bring this down. There we go. Michael and Marilyn at Michael. Playing the piano. There's a piano at Tent City. And by the way, lots of people came and visited, news people and reporters from Japan and all over the world interviewed Michael at Tent City. They were very impressed. And Gary Null, just about anyone you could imagine. So he spread the message pretty broadly there as well. Michael and Marilyn feeding the chickens. Marilyn, Marilyn. This is a bird that they have right now. Marilyn sent me, and Ibis is sitting on some eggs. So they had a pigeon, hamster. This is the camp.
Guinea pig.
I'm sorry, guinea pig. Thank you. Guinea pig. Marilyn. I just want to also honor Marilyn, who's really sort of really helped me through this period. We've really been in communication and shared these some of these with me, and went over the history and made a few minor corrections. And really, I just have been so impressed with who she is. When I met them last September and went and visited, she's really quite a person herself. She wishes to, there she is, remain invisible in this, and I honor that. This is when I went down and interviewed Michael and Marilyn in September. This is a passion flower that bloomed the day Michael died.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which happened to be April 18th. And knowing Michael and how in touch he was with numbers, and 18 is like the sacred number in the Kabbalah. I thought that was pretty significant. Marilyn is an incredible artist. And so this is a picture of some of the birds that they've come to know and hang around her place there. And when Michael was in the hospital, and it was just a real seesaw for us. And we really, one day we'd get a message, oh, he's, his blood work is good and he'll go home sometime. And we just got, one message of hope one day, and then the next, his lungs collapsed, and, he's been intubated and a ventilator, and, we don't know if he can get off. During that time, Marilyn was doing her thing. She was drawing, and this is one of Michael with the birds on his arms and shoulder, and like going someplace. And Marilyn told me that Michael loved yellow, orange monarch, I guess, orange butterflies. And several times he told me also they would just land on him and just hang out there for like half an hour or an hour, just hang out with him. So those are just some photos. So thank you. Just wanted to share them. Yeah.
Nancy, is there anything we can do for Marilyn?
Thank you so much for asking. I can't really speak for her. So
like money, send her some money, maybe.
If you like, I can.
Yeah. Okay.
Text her and check in with you, Paula.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely offer. Thanks. Yeah. So I just, I really am thankful to have all of you with me to share this and to honor Michael. I sort of vowed to myself that somehow, like Thomas, this will, all that his work will continue on in one way or another. So.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Nancy. If you can, there's a little button that says stop sharing screen, if you could do that.
Yeah. So, I lost the big, let's see if I go like that. Okay, there we go. Stop share. Are we there?
Yes, thank you so much. And I just wanted to go ahead and I'm going to switch our view to gallery view for anyone who wanted to put their video up. And for those who didn't, we're also very grateful to have all of you as part of this memorial to Michael. And thank you to Marilyn, who's also with us, and to April, and also I believe Pastor Rob. So just thank you to all of you who spent some time with us today to honor this very special being who had just this wonderful connection to animals and also a beautiful way of expressing it to others and enlightening people about compassion for animals. So really want to offer blessings that his work does continue through all of us and through other people that he's touched. And thank you, Nancy, for putting all this together and so we could see these wonderful images that were of Michael and represented Michael. And it's really been a treat to be together.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for hosting this and offering the space to do it.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure to help create that sacred space to honor an activist who really shared his heart and soul with the world and uplifted our entire community. So thank you. And to everyone, again, it's been a pleasure being together today, and we'll keep Michael's memory with us in our hearts. I wanted to also mention Judy apologized. She really wanted to be here today. Judy Carmen, there was an accident in her family, so she had to tend to that, and just wanted to let you know she also brings her prayers and her thoughts for Michael. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and end our memorial, and we'll just keep that beautiful feeling of Michael in our hearts, and hopefully everyone here can continue to stay connected and to reach out to one another as well.
I will put this on my YouTube channel, Roar, Reaching Out for Animal Rights, if anyone wants to share it or whatever.
Yes, and if anybody wants to find out about the Interfaith Vegan Coalition, you can actually go to interfaithvegancoalition.org, and there's some resources there for the type of activism that Michael was engaged in. So hopefully we can all stay in touch.
Very good.
Enjoy the rest of your days.
You too.
Take care. Many blessings.
Blessings.
Nancy.
Yeah.
Everybody.